Imagine growing up with almost nothing, working odd jobs to help your family get by. Now fast forward, and what if that same person built a business from just $3,000 and turned it into $15 million in sales? This is Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the podcast where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. And our guest today is Koerner, the co-founder of Texas Snax and CEO of cofounders.com. He has done so much great stuff. He has really hands in everything here, including doing $200,000 in his first month of business. Yes, you guys heard that correctly. He's on the podcast today to talk about his journey from delivering pizza to dominating retail. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. So excited to have you on.
I like that. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I don't usually talk about delivering pizza in my intro, but it's true. I did it.
You came from humble beginnings, and that's actually where I want to start. Let's talk about you growing up, because you weren't born in a mansion. You weren't flying on private jets when you were 5 years old. You had to earn everything. And so let's talk about growing up in a financially struggling household, and what lessons did you take away from your childhood that helped you prepare for entrepreneurship and all the great things you're doing?
Yeah, I was born in Logan, Utah, and I lived in a small house. My dad worked in a greenhouse, probably made $30,000 a year. And we were a family of 4 kids. And, I started these little side hustles and businesses so I could have money for candy and for a yearbook and for bikes, just kind of out of necessity. So,
yeah. What was that first entrepreneurial adventure you had? I always just loved hearing these stories, that very first one you remember.
It was selling used golf balls. I lived across the street from a golf course, and these golf balls would fly into my yard, and I put them in a Red Ryder wagon, and I got an 4x8 piece of plywood and got spray paint and put golf balls 3 for $1, leaned it up against my mailbox. And that's how I made my money as a 9 or 10-year-old.
That is so cool. And that has led to a lot of stuff. But important part of your journey is going to Hungary and then coming back. Let's talk about that experience that you had and what brought you there and then also coming back.
Yeah. So when I was 11, I moved from Utah to Central Florida. My dad got a job at Kennedy Space Center. It's a big culture shock. Went to high school there, didn't really do any side hustles or businesses. I just had a bunch of odd jobs, waiting tables, bussing tables, delivering pizzas, pest control, lawn care, you name it. And then I went on a mission for my church to Central Europe. So I had to learn Hungarian, and I had a mission companion, a white shirt and tie, and we would knock doors all day, every day for 2 years in post-communist Europe.
Gosh, that's interesting. What did that experience teach you? Because going from door to door that treats you a lot about resilience and getting no and a door slammed in your face quite a bit.
I added it up, and I was rejected about 23,000 times in 2 years, because that's all we did. We knocked doors and we talked to people on the street and asked them to talk about our church. And it did a lot of things. It taught me to not care about failure and rejection, which helped in business. And it taught me to be appreciative of America. I took it for granted, I'm sure a lot of other people do. And there's just no opportunity over there in Hungary. Didn't matter how smart or hardworking you were. And so I came back with this newfound contrast of this great country that we live in, with just this desire and drive and motivation that I had never had before.
So speaking of drive, speaking of motivation, that led you to start Texas Snax. And that's what the base of our conversation is going to be today. So let's talk about Texas Snax. What is it? What's the premise of it? And what led up to it?
4 years ago, I owned a 3PL, a third-party logistics business, where we managed all the logistics for e-commerce brands. And at the time, my cousin Kirk and my business partner was visiting from Utah. And we went to a Buc-ee's, his first time. We were just talking wow, imagine if Buc-ee's sold online, because they didn't sell online. And I was like, Kirk, they could be our client. They could be our vendor. We could manage all of their e-commerce forums. We got all excited about it. Cold emailed them, no response. Tried again, no response. So then I was like, Kirk, what if we just did something crazy? We bought one of everything and we took pictures of it all and we launched a website and then just launched it. We just started selling their products for them. So we did.
Interesting. So let's talk about, you bought one product of everything. How much did that cost? And what's the markup there for it?
Yeah. So that first batch was $3,000 or so. I brought my wife and 4 kids. We loaded up all these carts. We took a bunch of pictures, and we marked it up not nearly enough in the beginning, 40%. And the fulfillment and shipping costs were pretty high. But today we mark it up closer to 80%, hoping to make a 15% profit margin.
Interesting. So obviously, I think there's a lot to go on with this. I want to ask first, demand for these like Buc-ee's products. And guys, we're both in Texas here, Chris and I are. And if you've never been to Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's is like a whole experience of itself. So I want to talk about like, where does the demand come from? Is it nationwide or like who wants Buc-ee's products?
Yeah. So it's a really unique company. They only have about 50 locations, but by my best guess, they're privately traded. So no one really knows, but I believe they do about $1 billion in sales a year from 50 gas stations, which is crazy, but they don't sell online. And they sell snacks, but they sell a lot of merch, a lot of shirts. And the reason is good because they can't really sell their products for more than what they sell in store, hoping to make a profit. Because it's inefficient to ship, one bag of chips across the country. So they need to mark it up a bunch, but they take customer service very seriously and they don't want to ruin the goodwill that they built up with their customers.
Yeah, it is such an experience going to Buc-ee's because you have like 100 gas pumps along. Like that's a whole like retail store and everything as well. So you're launching this online. It's an e-commerce like Buc-ee's store essentially. Let's talk about like that first month. Like, did you guys get demand right away or like what led up to successful launch of this?
So we launched by cold emailing reporters. We wanted it to go viral. We thought it'd be a good story. That was kind of our thesis was either this will turn into a partnership or a business or just a good story. So we started emailing reporters. They loved it. They reached out to Buc-ee's for comment. They put us in touch with them and they wanted to be sure that we didn't infringe on their trademarks, that everyone on our website was clear that we did not represent Buc-ee's, that we were an unaffiliated independent third party. So we made a few changes on our website and then a bunch of articles were written about us and we went viral. And it was timed just right. This was 2020, November, right before Christmas, big fourth quarter rush. And we did about 200,000 of sales in those first 30 days.
Let me emphasize that $200,000 in like the first 30 days is insane. But you only bought one product of like each. So are you like scrambling to go to Buc-ee's to like restock here? Like what's that backstory there?
So we bought one of each just to take pictures of them all. But then once we launched and we sold them, then it's like, okay, now we need to spend a lot more money. So we just started going to Buc-ee's like every day and spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And they have hundreds of different products. And then, every t-shirt, they have 6 different sizes and they have 50 different types of t-shirts. So that's 300 different SKUs just for t-shirts. And then they have pajamas and hats and everything. So it was very complex and it took us about 2 years to really get our arms around the logistics of this business.
Yeah, the logistics I think are fascinating. Let's talk about like those first month logistics. Guys, stay tuned because we're going to dive into like starting your own basically retail like arbitrage like type system here. What were those logistics like? Was it just you and your family doing it? Did you have a partner doing it? Because you're doing a lot of stuff here. You're putting it on your website. You're grabbing the supplies. I'd love to hear those logistics just to get people thinking here.
Yeah. So thankfully, we already owned a logistics business. So we had a small warehouse with shelving and employees. So we could just plug that into the system. But even so, it was still complex. And we didn't do a good job taking care of our customers in the beginning because it was so messy and complex. And, we had this business that we owned right here, fulfilling products, but then we have this other business where we're fulfilling products on behalf of other customers. So we were always kind of battling these two product lines and it made it pretty difficult. But we could have launched out of my garage. We could have launched from home. It just would have been even messier in that sense.
Yeah. I have a question for our listeners. Are you wanting to get featured on top podcasts like Upflip without spending hours on outreach? If you answered yes, then the answer for you is Podpitch. Podpitch has the largest podcast database in history. It's updated daily with every data point you could imagine. All you have to do is describe the kind of podcast you want, and boom, Podpitch instantly built a massive list ranked by relevance. Then just craft your pitch or let Podpitch do it for you. It even syncs with your email to match your writing style. And when you're ready, send up to 10,000 fully personalized pitches, each one tailored to that podcast host's latest episodes, tweets, and interests. Stop wasting time on cold outreach. Get booked on the right shows with Podpitch. Try it today by clicking the link in the description below. That's what I think like the beautiful thing about like this business idea is like you can launch this in theory like from your garage, from your house. So I want to talk about like, how did you then take Texas Snax from that first month of success? You guys did $200,000. And I believe you guys generated up to about $15 million in sales over 4 years. What were some of like those important aspects to scale to that level?
Oh, well, one of our challenges is figuring out how to hire and motivate low-wage employees. People paid $12 to $17 an hour. We're competing with Amazon. And that's tough to do. We don't have the benefits that Amazon offers. So you kind of have to go hard the other direction and say, we're not Amazon. And no, you don't have those benefits, but we care about you as a human. And you can listen to music while you work. You can't do
Yeah.
that at Amazon. We're going to have pizza Fridays. We're going to play fun games. We're going to have a culture. You're not just going to be a number, and you're not going to get paid as much as Amazon, but you're going to have a better work-life balance. So that's kind of the approach we took.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about more approaches. So someone that's like, okay, I'm dialed into this right now. Chris has got me on the hook. I can do $200,000 in sales my first month if I do this right. If you had to go back now and tell someone how to identify products or markets with high resale potential, what does that process look like for someone listening?
Yeah, so I would start by going to the discount suppliers like TJ Maxx. There's an Ollie's discount outlet, and you can download apps where you can scan certain items. Like, let's say you see an air fryer. Like, oh, $30 air fryer. It's on clearance. Let's see what this goes for on Amazon. $80. Interesting. And then you can just learn how to play the arbitrage game, and you can list them on Amazon, send them all to Amazon at once in one box, and send it with the proper labeling and sell them through your account and make a margin on the difference. To me, that's a much more approachable way to sell things online or on Facebook Marketplace, because it's more scalable and not dependent on, one big white whale partnership or customer. You can basically buy and sell whatever you want.
Yeah. So the simplest terms of how I'm like comprehending this is you're basically finding something at a discount and then just reselling it for a high markup.
Yeah. Or I like, just as a game, going to Facebook Marketplace and tracking like what is getting a lot of clicks. I'll list dozens of different things for sale just from images that I get from Google Images to see what type of clicks they get. And I'll test different price points in different markets. That's just like a test, like a fun experiment to see where the demand is online. And it's shocking how much you can learn from doing that.
Yeah. I want to make it as easy for listeners that want to do this here. What has been a product that has had high demand that you've seen over the 4 years, 5 years that you've been doing this?
Probably seasonal shirts, because of the fact that they're different every year. New design every year, or tumblers as well. These are mass markets. It's things that people need to use and or wear every single day. And every couple months, they're coming out like St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, new designs. And then every year, new designs of the same season as well. So that's worked well.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, where are you getting these seasonal design, like t-shirts? Is it at like the TJ Maxx's or like, where is that at?
These are Bucky shirts that I'm referring to here.
Yeah, I think it's just important to like give context there on like where these are actually coming from and everything like that. But what are like the startup costs with this? I know you spent $3,000. Is that really all you need to get started? Could you get started with less and build from there? Would love to hear Chris's advice.
Yeah, it just depends on the industry and on the types of products that you're selling. Ours costs $3,000 because that's how much it costs to buy one of everything for Bucky's, but that's very unique. I would think in most cases it costs much, much less than that, especially if you have a credit card with a revolving 30-day balance that you could pay off by the end of the 30 days. I would think as little as $200 or $300, especially if you're leaning heavily on Facebook Marketplace.
Is that the best place for people to get started, is Facebook Marketplace for reselling? I know you brought up Amazon as well. Are those like the two heavy hitters for reselling then?
Absolutely Facebook Marketplace, because it's so approachable. You can ship things on it, but it's more built for local transactions. Amazon is much less approachable because there's a lot of approvals, red tape. You have to label things very specifically. But you can use Facebook Marketplace for the testing. And then once you find winning products, you can scale those up to Amazon.
Interesting. Question off of that then is like, how do you identify like those winning products? Like, I'm sure like revenue and all that stuff, how quickly they're like, their shelf life, if you can call them that, or what are the metrics that you look for to define that winning product?
Yeah. So I like to borrow ideas from other marketplaces. So one thing that I'll do is I'll open an incognito tab in a new browser and I'll go to Etsy.com and I will just kind of see what the homepage is showing me. There's a lot you can learn from algorithms. The algorithm is going to push to you what is already hot. Just like when you create a new TikTok account, TikTok knows nothing about you. It's going to show you videos that have hundreds of millions of views because it doesn't know who you are yet. And then if you start swiping on Theo Von or at comedians or whatever, or prank videos, it's going to start showing you more of that. And so go to eBay, go to Facebook with brand new accounts, clear your cookies, clear your cache, and just start looking. What's it showing me? And then you can take listings like those and list them yourself. And then you could try, all right, Houston and Dallas are comparable in size and demographic. I'm going to post, this is something, pizza oven. I just bought a pizza oven. I'm going to post a used pizza oven here, used pizza oven here. Oh, okay. This one got 30 clicks, but 5 inbound messages. This one got 30 clicks, but 15 inbound messages. Interesting. So there's 3 times higher intent in this market versus this market. So you can run dozens of tests at any given time, and the algorithm and the people will just give you all this data that you can say, okay, pizza oven's cool. I'm going to start now that I have the demand, because that's the harder part. Now I'm going to go find the supply and find a way to source these, because I know that I'll be able to sell them at a profitable price point.
Interesting. And I know we talked about sourcing this. I mean, where do you source like a pizza? Let's stick with this example here. Like, where do you source that pizza oven from? Are you looking on Facebook Marketplace at the complete source where you're just going to resell it? Or like, where do you find that source for all of this?
Yeah. So one thing that I'll do is I will buy and sell from Facebook Marketplace. So I'll go to Facebook Marketplace and I'll run a search that's over 30 days old. And let's just keep using pizza ovens as an example. And then I'll know exactly, after 20 minutes, I kind of know what the market price is. I'll run search for items that have been on Facebook Marketplace for a while, and I'll look for listings that have poor description, poor pictures, 1 or 2 pictures, and then I'll just know immediately that there's an arbitrage there. So if it's been listed for a while, it means they're more likely to take a lowball offer. If it's been listed for a while, it means it's probably because they have crappy pictures or description. So pizza oven isn't a great example for this because you really need a higher ticket to make it worthwhile. But all else equal, you could just buy something at a steep discount, take possession of it, take professional pictures of it, upload as many pictures or videos as it will allow you to do, put a keyword-rich description in there, and you can sell the same item on the same marketplace for more money because you have more visibility.
Yeah. What I love about this strategy is one that was like super tactical, but what I also love about this as well is anyone can really do this. This is like a 15-year-old could do this, a 60-year-old could do it, everyone in between. It doesn't sound like this strategy is just an arrow to that 30-year-old entrepreneur that has 5 businesses. You can really get started as your first business on this, which I think is super exciting as well. I want to talk about continuing down that road of, okay, let's just continue with pizza ovens just to keep it easy for people. You achieve some early success. You have some good numbers here. What steps should they take to then grow and like sustain that business? Is it more product offerings? Is it automations? What would you advise someone?
I would advise them to start looking at like liquidation auctions. 2 websites that I like. One is called Bstock, where you can buy Costco returns. A lot of people are turned off by it because you have to have a reseller certificate, but you're looking like $100 and filling out one form. It's not that difficult to get. So bstock.com/Costco. I've seen people buy a 20-foot container full of treadmills for $1,000. Like it is stupid because it's either they sell this for next to nothing or they throw it away. So that's a great source. And what's great about that is you can go list those treadmills on Facebook Marketplace before you spend a dime, before you buy anything, and say, okay, wow, these sell really well. I'm going to buy these. In fact, I can afford to pay a lot more than the current list price. Or, you know what? Even if I break even on these, they're not selling, so I'm not buying these. So most people just don't realize how much research you can actually do before having to spend a dime.
It's just like so amazing because what excites me about this, and I want to double down, is anyone could do this, but like it also sounds like you could do this as like a side hustle in a sense. Like you can have that 9-to-5 job. And I know a lot of upflippers love like side gigs. And it sounds like this is something you can do as a side gig.
Yeah. And it's just like you have to rewire your brain if you haven't already. And when you make your first dollar on the internet, like something changes in your brain. And it's like, oh, that was cool. This is possible. And then it just opens up a whole world. A lot of people, they try to start at step 4. Right? Step 1 is like generate $1. It's not get an LLC. It's not go ask your friends and family for feedback on your idea. You need to find a customer. Even if the customer is your mom, right?
Yeah.
You need to find a paying customer to validate the concept. And then you start, doing the other things that are a little more sexy. Because we start with the easy, sexy things. How about a domain name? I'm serious. No, you need to get a customer because that's the hard part.
What's so funny about that is I was literally just talking to someone on this podcast about that. Like, I feel like a lot of like wannabe entrepreneurs, their workflow is like get a domain, register an LLC, make a website. But people that have been in the weeds have started companies that get a customer, improve the customer, then maybe make the website like step like 7 or 8.
Oh yeah. I've started businesses that had 6 figures of revenue before it even had a website. It was just an afterthought.
Insane. Yeah. So everyone Take note on that as well. Of course, what comes with you're negotiating with people that are buying, you're negotiating with people that are selling. Would love to hear like what's your approach to negotiating better deals with suppliers or wholesalers to increase those profit margins as well. Like, do you have any besides like the Chris Voss book, but like any negotiation tips there?
I look at it this way. Like if you were going to buy a truck from your dad, is he going to cut you a good deal? Yeah. Like he still needs to make some money from it, but you're going to get about the best deal possible for that truck. And why? Well, it's because you have a relationship. So that's like one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is a stranger from Facebook Marketplace that's selling a truck. You show up, you meet him, you give him an offer. He doesn't know about you. He doesn't care about you, right? So you're going to get a deal on the other end of the spectrum. So with buying from wholesalers or buying real estate, anything, you just want to move closer to that end of the spectrum. And you can only do that by playing the long game, building a relationship with them, not like beating them up over price on day one. In fact, giving them maybe more than they're expecting on day one to buy some goodwill, because that will pay off 10 times more in the future when you actually really need it. Like to save $5 on a pizza oven today is really nothing. But when you're buying hundreds of them and you could save $10 or $20 on each of them, that would really move the needle for you. But they have short-term thinking a lot of times, and they just try to play hardball on day one, and you really can't do that.
Is there anything that you do with like suppliers or anything? I know we just had like the holidays here. Like, do you send suppliers like Christmas gifts or anything, or like customers? I would love to hear that, because I think that's a unlock for a lot of entrepreneurs when they don't think about developing these long-term relationships.
Well, yeah. And especially, I mean, in the wholesale game or liquidation game, a lot of these vendors are, they're 6 or 7 figure relationships. And like, let's say you have a vendor that really likes you and he sells pizza ovens and he's got 50 people in his Rolodex that he can call, that he's going to call you because you sent a $50 gift basket for Christmas. But like the fact that you're getting the call first could be worth $100,000. But you sent him a $50 gift basket, and that's why you stood out. Like the trick is to offer things that have much more value than they have cost, right? Like back to my warehouse example, when we were hiring warehouse associates, we would pay for their Netflix and Hulu and YouTube premium subscriptions, which was like $50 a month, but it carried a value of like $500 because they didn't have to think about it. Like it was just such a luxury. It was a win-win, So finding those things like that have more value than cost.
A good example we have right now, current event actually is, so we had a potential prospect in Los Angeles, and obviously there's wildfires going on in Los Angeles. And he's like, hey guys, I can't meet this week because I have to evacuate. So like a nice gesture from us, I think it was a nice gesture, was sending him like a $50 like DoorDash gift card of like, get to your next spot, order. It's $50, but in the long term of him actually signing with us, the whole value is like sells itself 30x almost.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about like identifying products, how to manage those relationships. Another important question that comes to mind here is like shipping and fulfillment. I know you had fulfillment and shipping experience before that. You had a whole company. For someone that doesn't have those resources available to them, how would you advise them to ship effectively?
Yeah, you've got to go about doing it yourself to start. A lot of times business owners are like, well, that's not the best and highest use of my time. I should be marketing. And there's valid points to that. But you don't want to train someone on something or outsource anything until you really have your arms wrapped around it. Like, all the tricks of the trade, or else you're just going to set yourself up for failure in the future. So do everything yourself to start in an unscalable way. And then scaling will become a lot easier. Also, when you start to work with like FedEx or UPS with bulk negotiated discounts, you can always go cheaper. Like a lot of times UPS has their published rates and like, these are our retail rates and we're going to give you 60% off. And the average business owner is like, holy cow, wow, I got 60% off. What they don't know is like 90% is pretty standard, So it's like 60% should not prevent you for asking for more, because in my experience, literally you just ask and you get it. And it could be the difference between $5,000 a month in shipping cost or $3,500 a month in shipping cost, just because you asked once.
That comes down to like a lot of things of like asking, knowing what to do. We're going to wrap up this segment here and move on to one more that I'm like very excited for, that I'm selfishly going to ask some questions out of, just because you're an amazing entrepreneur here. If you give like one more piece of advice for someone that wants to start in this sector, what would you give them?
Test everything. Don't fall in love with a certain niche or product or store. You just have to test everything. Good is the enemy to perfect. And you find a winning product and you lean into it, you go all in on that. Well, just keep testing. you should never stop. Like keep selling the pizza ovens and then try pellet grills too. See how that goes. Just keep testing.
Keep testing. And one thing that I love about you, Chris, is like you have tested like a lot of different business ideas. You have like 7, 8 companies, maybe 9 starting here soon. I'm curious, like from a personal perspective, like how do you manage all your time and like make sure you're focusing on like the right thing with each company? Because obviously you can be spread very thin here. Like what's your secret to managing 7 companies?
So I go by what's called Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law, for those listening that don't know, states that work and or tasks expand or contract to fit the time or resources allotted to it. So like if it's kind of like if you go to a buffet, you're going to get a plate that's pretty small because they don't want you to eat too much. And if you're at home and if you eat from a small plate, you will scientifically eat fewer calories. You have a big plate, you're going to eat more calories because that's just Parkinson's law. And another way of looking at it is, let's say I like to clear my inbox every Friday, inbox 0 every Friday. Well, let's say I go to the beach with my family on Friday and my kids want to go play volleyball with me in the sand. I usually take 8 hours to clear my inbox and I have 1 hour to do that. I'm going to get it done. I'm just going to get it done. And the emails that aren't as important, I'm just going to mark them as red because they're not that important. And you're in high school. You have a month to do a project. You do the night before. You're told you have a project due the next day. You're going to get it done. So I just like say yes to everything. I overwhelm myself with tasks. And the ones that are important naturally get my attention and everything else just falls by the wayside.
Interesting. I want to ask this and push back on me if this is too much here, but like, do you like experience like a lot of anxiety with like all the companies that you're like running with? Because for me, I'm a newer entrepreneur. I'm going on like my second full calendar year being an entrepreneur. To me, running like 8, 7 companies is like overwhelming. I'd be curious, like, do you experience that anxiety with like how you build your schedule?
I do from time to time, not regularly. And I have operating partners for all of my businesses, which on one hand is like really nice. But on the other hand, it means that like the 5% of the most stressful things from all of them make their way up to me. I get the worst of the worst, but everything else is outsourced. And so there was one time like a year or 2 ago when I was just driving home from the office, a bunch of stuff weighing on me, and I had a panic attack and I didn't even know what it was. I had heard of it, but I had never experienced it. I had never struggled with anxiety or anything. And my just heart started racing. I started feeling sick. I was shaky and it wouldn't go away. And I didn't know what it was. And so I tried to manage that. And it's not all roses. I woke up at 3:30 this morning. I didn't set my alarm for that. I just started thinking about work when I woke up to go pee. And that comes with the territory.
What I think is like so admirable about you is like just doing well in so many different companies and just like being able to internally take on all the stressors that like comes with that. I'm stressing running one company, you're running like 7, 8 companies here. So I heard Parkinson's law is like the biggest thing for when it comes to like time management. Any habits that help you like set your schedule up successfully to like come as your best self?
Yeah, I try to keep my calendar as free as possible. I drink caffeine. That helps. I put on AirPods, do not disturb. My phone is on do not disturb 24/7. I have an app called Opal that blocks all the addicting apps for certain periods of the day. And like, I think we're going to look back on this time period and think it's absolutely crazy that everyone in the world just allowed anyone in the world to push a notification at them whenever they wanted on their schedule. Like, why do we allow that? Why should we allow that? It's like, come knock on my door anytime you want, day or night. No, my phone is like, do not disturb should be the default setting with very, very rare exceptions. And then I will answer those texts or calls or voicemails when I get time. If there's an emergency, you can call 911.
I like it. And I know you talk about your calendar a lot here. So I want to wrap up this episode with basically like 2 more segments here. This is our last question before we run to our fan blitz. One thing that I love that you're doing on your social media right now, and guys, go check out Chris's social media. I mean, we're talking almost 550,000 followers on Instagram. We're talking over 100,000 on Twitter. So it's a great social media. One thing you're doing right now is doing like your favorite business ideas for 2025. And we're on day 10 of this right now. We'll love to hear like so far, like what's been some of your best business ideas for 2025 that people can take on and learn more about.
Yeah, that's so hard to ask because I've been putting out 3 of those videos a day. And so literally I've covered 30 ideas in the first 10 days of the year. But I really like, and I'm going to go look at my own page so I can remember. I really like, it's funny because we're talking about pizza ovens. I posted a video. Did you see it about cooking pizza?
Oh, I don't think I saw that. Oh, I see it right here.
Yeah. So I read this article in the Wall Street Journal about a guy that makes 175 grand a year in net profit On the weekends, he's a professor selling pizza at a farmer's market. 2 farmers markets. He works really hard all day, 175 grand with like 80% margins from a $2,000 pizza oven. He doesn't have a food truck. He doesn't have a restaurant. And it's just like, there's no business too small for me. I don't care. I love business. I don't care if it's porta potties, door to door, $1 billion, $100. I love turning $1 to 2. So I like the idea of taking a $2,000 pizza oven and going to a farmer's market and selling $20 pizzas that cost you $2 in labor. And personally, as a foodie, I love the taste. And as a business owner, I love the margins.
He just like released one about like doing a huge sandbox environment, like legit sand in a coffee shop. I think that's just like such a unique twist and something that like I kind of want to do, honestly.
Yeah, I know. That sounds fun too.
Chris, you've been amazing. Let's go to our Fan Blitz questions. And these are questions submitted from our community. And guys, if you want to join in on world-class entrepreneurs, go to www.youtube.com/upflip and submit your questions there. But Chris, ready for our last 4 questions here?
Yep.
Number 1, what's the most surprising item you've ever resold for a profit?
Probably a culvert. You know what a culvert is?
What is a culvert? Yeah, I don't even know what a culvert is.
It's like a metal, plastic, or PVC pipe that you put under a road that water passes through. So I was just driving and I was in the market for a culvert because I have this property and I built a dirt road and I needed a ditch to pass through it. And I saw these culverts, and my city, the city that I live in, was just swapping out their fiber optic cable. And so they had all this culvert that they were just replacing for no reason. And I asked the contractor if I could have it. And he's like, yeah. And I sold it. I got it for free and I sold it for hundreds of dollars. It's fun.
Your mind's always in business. I love that.
Always.
If you had to start a business today with $500, what would it be?
One of 2 things. I would start flipping stuff on Facebook Marketplace like we've talked about because it's so approachable. It's approachable and it's scalable. And very few things are both. And the other thing would be to start a home service business. Service businesses are awesome. It costs very little to start. Most of them are low skilled. Tree trimming, painting, drywall, fence, anything like that.
I am right with you. That's what we talk about most on Upflip. So you are on the right podcast. Number 3, what's one tool or app every retail arbitrage entrepreneur should know or use?
Yeah, Zapier. You can connect any software to any software and automate basically anything that you want. You can connect it to ChatGPT and have it answer your emails for you. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, Zapier is a great one. All right, Chris, last one for you. Biggest mistake you made early on, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest mistake I made early on is easily going into business with friends, close friends, just because we're friends, right? I advocate going into business with friends, but they need to have a skill that they can bring to the table that can benefit you and the business. Doing business with friends is funner. It's better, but it shouldn't just be because you're close. It should be because they're a killer hard worker. They have a lot of industry expertise that you don't have. They have something that can really add value to the outcome.
That's so good. Very last question for you. If someone's like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more about Chris. I want to connect with him. Where can they learn more about you and connect with you?
Probably at tkopod.com. That's my podcast, the Koerner Office podcast.
Upflip listeners, I have a secret for you. If you love this episode with Chris, you guys are going to love the Upflip Academy. Within the Upflip Academy, there are playbooks for real businesses out there, step-by-step guides to help you go from 0 to hero. Check out the Upflip Academy by visiting us at upflip.com/academy to get started with your first business today. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. I love all the insights. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.